Okay, here we go. Welcome everyone to Witch Bitch, where we talk the real tea. And today, once again, we have Mandy on the show. Oh, so exciting. So, when I was coming up with a title, I decided on it to be around surrendering and letting go and just kind of trusting divinity, and just releasing the ego, basically. It's actually titled Trusting Divinity, and a lot goes into that. Just because for me personally, coming up where like a lot of doubt has come up or a lot of unknown has come up, and for a very long time I personally experienced like this choice point where there was like about 8 different choices, infinite possibilities in front of me, and it was very to choose. And I think trusting divinity is also trusting self. And I know you would definitely have a lot of wisdom to share on this, Mandy. So I'm curious in your journey with trusting divinity and, the stuff that has been coming up for you in life, to get you to a point of trusting divinity even stronger every day. So, yeah.
Yes, and it's a training. It's like training ourselves to get to that point where you really do trust it. But there was just an innate knowing within me that the spirit energy that I could feel around me was something that I could trust. Not all of it. I knew there was definitely different substance in there as well, but that mainly there was an energy or energetics in there that I could trust and that I did always trust. And for whatever
Mm.
reason, I don't know, but everything in me just said that was okay to trust them. And more, as we move more into that connection of self and knowing, we move from those guidance systems that we had out there, those all the spirit helpers and guidance that we have, to an innate inner awareness of self and our own guidance, which is that anyway, we're all if we look at oneness, we're in that quantum field of one, everything that is around us is us too. So all of the guidance system, all the guides that we've had in over time in life are usually aspects of ourself as well. So yeah, but it is a training. It's it's really learning to trust it, but listening to your own body and what it's telling you in that divinity, because the
Mm.
divine knowing within you knows the truth on every aspect of your life and every question that you have. It's just a matter of keeping the mind out of the way as well, so that mind doesn't come into story and start switching you into some other, part of it, or doubt or whatever might be coming up. But yeah,
Mm.
and that's a regular thing with all of us at all times in life, really. We have
Yeah.
story and we go into doubt. Mm.
When you say listening to your body, how does that show up for you? Like between you and your body? What does it feel like?
Okay. Yeah. So again, I've always just had this knowing that when something was right for me, it just automatically was a definite knowing. But what I tend to do with any information is, so say I'm in a reading with somebody. I'm doing a one-on-one intimate reading with somebody, and there's information that's coming in. And often what I say to them is the way that I work is that it's your energetic field that's giving me the information. There might be loved ones that come in and want to have a chat, we'll do that, but otherwise the information is coming from your energetic field. And what will happen is I get pictures all around you that are giving me all this information. And for me, there's a feeling state. So when I click into something, and I might have a little mind thing happen and go, oh, is that actually correct? What I need to do is I need to check my own body. And my body tells me straight away, either gets goosebumps, where my whole body will go into goosebump, and or what happens is there's just a strong, it's like a how would I put it? So we might touch a sponge, right? And a sponge is spongy. And then we can touch a table or a wall and it's solid. Well, the way that the energetics come through for me is when it's truth, it's solid. There's absolutely no way that I can shift it or switch it or move it. So what I do is I tend to shift it, and I'll try to move it or rub it out in a sense if I'm not trusting perhaps fully that I've got something. And if I try and do that 3 times and it's not moving and it's not going to go away, I know it's the truth and that I need to just follow that. If something's dissolving, then I know no, that's not solid enough for me to go on 100% sure. So I would either eliminate that or just say to the person, this is what's coming in. For me, it doesn't feel 100% accurate, but there may be something in it that you might need to understand from that, but otherwise it's not for me, it's not 100% truth. So oftentimes too, what we need to do in the sense of, what is that noise? Is it on your end or my end? Or
I think it's coming from me. Don't know.
Mute your mic, Mum, and let's have a look.
Yeah. Oh, it stopped.
Did it stop when I muted?
It stopped.
It stopped now.
Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
That was really weird. Okay, I'm gonna.
That was getting more and more intense. I was trying to yell over it. Now I can't remember where I was up to.
You're talking about how solid the truth is, and that it's like immovable, it's undeniable. Yeah.
Yes. And so so that's the way I check it. If it's solid and stays there. The other thing with myself, when I find, I don't know, when I'm not sitting in full integrity, so I might be saying yes to something that in here I'm going, actually, I don't know that I really want to do that. And yet I'm saying yes because in that moment they're pressuring me maybe for a yes or a no, an answer, and I might go, oh, yeah, okay. But in me's going, hang on a minute, that doesn't quite feel right. What will happen is I get a burning, an instant burning from the inside out. That is, it's like it burns the truth, it burns the lie or the it's not even that you're lying, well, you sort of are because you're not being totally truthful, but whatever that is, it burns it out. Yeah. And instantly I come back to a regular heat again, body heat, and I'm in my alignment, and I know, but whatever that might have been going to create within our body, for me it feels like that's just burnt away, it's not there anymore, and it will not affect anything within my realm of being. So when I feel that heat come through me, then that's the point in where I recheck, I check myself and go, okay, so what is the truth within that then?
Yeah, I wanted to speak to this because personally through my awakening journey, I started off, things are quite muted because you're only just waking up, you're only just coming out of the matrix. When you have intuitive thoughts, you're so used to not listening to them, or you don't know how to really pick them up. But as you get further through awakening through the spiritual journey, it gets stronger and stronger as you trust it more and more, and then it does become a physical sensation. I didn't experience a physical sensation at first, but now I do feel a physical sensation that I can recognize, because it was always there before, but I just couldn't pick it out. I couldn't actually recognize it. And the more that you trust and the more that you tune in and trust divinity and trust yourself, then it begins to show up. And truth for me feels like it's more it just comes in as a wave to my body. When something is undeniably a truth for me, it's like question, it hits me, when you kind of have a realization and it's like, oh wow, it's kind of like that, where I can't go back to not thinking that that's not a truth, or like not my truth. Once I realize that it's my truth, it's like it's in my body now. It's my truth. This is it. And I've I find it easier to trust my body because it's so close. It's such a physical vessel than it is for me to trust divinity. Like, for example, I mean, they are the same thing, but
Yes.
they are different aspects of the same thing. And when I when I say divinity, I kind of mean like in this aspect, I mean like the universe, like my path, or you know, being guided by the way. And I think I have like control issues with the universe. I like to know what's going on before I'm there. Like, I like to have a plan or some kind of structure. Um, I like to know what I'm getting myself into before I do something. And I found the past 3 weeks a huge challenge for me because now that I'm out of home, I could feel like in this place that I'm in, that like this physical place that I'm in, it was not going to work for me. Like, it just, I'm done here, my time is up, and I could feel that. That was my truth that I couldn't deny. But then there was this stage of like trusting divinity and like letting go and just being like, okay, I know my time's coming here to an end, but it's going to work out and I'm going to know where I'm going to go. And I just had to keep letting go every day, like let go, let go, let go, like repeating the motion of like getting attached in the morning, like waking up attached to my idea, and then throughout the day being like, no, it's okay, let's let this go. And eventually, and this was literally yesterday, I realized it was coming to a stage where it was time for me to act and to like actually act in this feeling of like, I'm not meant to be here anymore. Let's go and figure out what I'm going to do, where I'm going to move to. And so I met up with a friend who we had loose plans to go meet up in Cairns. And so I was like, let's talk this out. Let's actually create a bit of a structure around this, and let's move forward. And then all of a sudden, as we were talking, we then decided, oh, well, then let's, like, we had a whole long discussion for hours, and we planned out a really huge plan where we're going to do farm work together, and then we're going to go with the money that we save, we're going to go halves on a car, and then we're going to travel around Australia. Like, we have a whole thing planned, and it flowed so beautifully. And then I went home and I told one of my best friends about it, and she was like, oh, well, I'm going to go to Sydney, and I'm going down to Melbourne, I'm going to pass through Sydney. My plan was to come back home for a month. And it just, like, while I was talking with her, she was like, let's just, you come with me and I'll drop you off at Sydney, we'll go on a road trip together. And like, it just worked out so perfectly, and it was all because I just let go. And then when it was time for me to plan, when it was time for me to create action, I could feel that in my body, and then I just did it, and then everything worked out. Like, I have a plan that I couldn't imagine. I'm literally going, have you heard of the Rainbow Gathering before, Mandy?
I think so. There's
Yeah. It's like a festival, but not really. It's free, and it's like all these hippies. I think they refer to themselves, at least some of them, as like the rainbow people or the rainbow
Yes.
hippies.
Yeah.
And they all meet up in one location, and for a month they hang out. But if you don't have to go for a few days or for a week, or people come and go, but the actual gathering itself goes from one full moon to the next, so
Yeah.
for about a month. And it me and my friend were both hippies, so and it just so happens that it's happening when we're going to leave, and it's kind of on the way, so we're going to go there for a few days, and then we're going to continue going down on our travels. Like, everything worked out perfectly, and it was all because I just let go every single day. I had to let go, and I just
Yeah.
had to surrender, and it worked out like so beautifully. Mm.
That's exactly it. When you trust it, and even though you may not know the steps, you might not know anything about it other than, okay, I know I just need to do this and
Yeah.
it feels right to do that. Every time you take one step, the next step will show up. You mightn't have the whole pathway and the end journey and see what's going to happen at the end, but you get the steps. And if you just trust the steps, and as soon as we jump out of the fear, because often the doubt is coming in its fear, and the story starts up, and that's another fear story going on. But as soon as as we drop that, it changes the course. It's a completely different course, and you come into that trust, and everything just flows and opens up and lays it in front of you. That's the way I've always said it. It's just lays out in front of you, and you just have to start taking the steps or keep walking the steps.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful, beautiful orchestration. I just love it. I love how it's just something that has always buzzed me out. It's energy, and the way that this all moves and works just absolutely buzzes me out. Makes my day, every day, fun and lively, you
Yeah.
know. And that's, I mean, I used to I'd get a call, and me, something would say, okay, just go and drive up 10K up the road and go out this road. Might
Yeah.
not know what road I'm going on. I know where I'm seeing, so I'll drive up, go out that road, and often there was some land that needed clearing. Just on a journey just recently, I ended up going down a road that I don't usually go down, and I ended up being in this area that was like a bit foreign to me, but it led me to the place that I was meant to be going to. It went completely the opposite way, but came back round to the loop that I was going to. And I just trust spirit. I trust my own guidance, and that, okay, I'm meant to be on this road, and what's it leading me to?
Yeah.
And when I'm clearing, if anything's clearing and I'm clearing air and energy around me, I do a lot of belching. So I can be driving through just belching the whole way, and I know that's what I'm doing. We're clearing energy here. There's something here. I don't even need to stop the car and get out. We're just already in a big powered energy force going through when we're driving through. But I trust the process, and I always know, even though I might not know that road or how long I'm going to be on the road, I always trust I have enough petrol, have enough time, and oftentimes held up, like it's stretched, so I'm not using the time that I would need, if you get me.
Yeah.
It's all so divine. I love it. It just is incredible when you really trust it and just listen to the prompts. And I think at this time in life, really, it's really quite important for us to be really listening to what our body's saying, for sure, about what we're putting in it, for one thing, but also the guidance, the signs that come up when we are being directed somewhere. It's going to happen in the body. It always will.
Yeah.
So, Mandy, when you told us about your body communicating with you and talking about the sponge and how the truth feels and all of that, how did you learn to decipher the feelings and what they were telling you? How did you create that language and understand what the language was saying?
Honestly, Claudia, I knew it right from, I was a weird kid. I knew it, but I wouldn't always listen to it and do as I was being prompted to do. So I very quickly came to realize that when I didn't listen and I didn't do as I was being prompted to, everything just turned to custard. And I just got to a point where it's like, well, you know what's going to happen if you don't take these steps and listen, and honor it, really, because it's an honoring.
Yeah.
But yeah, often things would just turn to shite, and I'd think, oh, see, I knew that. I should have just done what I knew I was meant to do. Waste of time, waste of energy, and now there's just no questioning it at all. None at
Yeah.
all.
I think also something that I've learnt through, like what you brought up in me through saying that, Mandy, was on my travels so far, being here up in Byron Bay, um, things like I always thought if something is coming up with obstacles that it's not meant to happen. Like if, for example, I held this belief, and there was these obstacles to get to this wonderful place. I can't say the name, but it's like this. Basically, this guy built a huge temple by himself on his land in the middle of the jungle, and it took so much to get there. It was like a whole deal. There was tears. We had to get an Uber there, like through the potholes and the thing, because we were gonna have like our friend was supposed to drive us, and then she ditched us. It was like all these things happened, and but then we got there, and it was like the most amazing, life-changing place. I'm going back. I don't know when, but I'm definitely going to go back. I will talk about this place for the rest of my life. And it was the most incredible, magic, miracle of a place. But as we were going through the motions, trying to get there, I was like thinking, is this signs that we're not supposed to go? Like literally, my friend, she was ordering an Uber for us, and her phone died while she was ordering the Uber. And so I'm like, is this meant to happen? Because like at that point, so much had already, gone wrong. But it's these obstacles sometimes happen to test us, to like to if anything, to encourage us to get there even more. Like they're coming up for a reason, and it's not to discourage all the time. And also, like, if something's meant to happen, it's going to happen, and if something's not meant to happen, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Something doesn't flow or may not serve you, if like it's still probably meant to happen. It's teaching you something. Whereas if it's absolutely not meant to happen at all, then there's nothing you can do about it. It's just not going to work out. So when these obstacles do come up, it's important to also settle into them, because sometimes they could be for encouragement, for a test to see how determined you are. And then another time they could be obstacles to show you, hey, this may not serve you in the best way. And the way that you can distinguish, at least for me, the way that I distinguish is through my body as well. Like the body is the indicator. It's like literally it tells us everything that we would ever need to know. And all you have to do is just like sit and breathe. Because when I did that, I knew that these obstacles that were put in my way were here to serve me and to teach me, and to like, they were here for a reason, and I just didn't know the reason right now. But it was it was important that I kept going. Whereas I think if I had with a different situation, and there's these obstacles in place, if I sat down and felt into it, it would be like, no, these obstacles are here to show me that this is not the right choice for me right now. So it can be confusing.
Absolutely, it can be. And I hear so many people say, oh no, there were so many obstacles and we had so much trouble trying to do it, we've just stopped, And often what happens is our inner patterning and programming of sabotage often comes in. There's points in there. I used to, if at some point, years and years ago, when I would be maybe trying to get to a job interview or going to an appointment somewhere, go out, the car tire would be flat, the battery in the car would be flat, there'd be something that would be my way of sabotaging what I was going into. And somewhere in there might have been fear, because it was something new that I was going to start, or it was just the pattern, which was often how it ran. It was often me sabotaging all the time. And so what will happen is those obstacles that come up are you testing you on how much do you want this? How much do you want the change? How much do you want the new? How much do you want this experience even, And often we might come out of a relationship, go into a next one, and what we gave the other relationship up for has the same thing in this new relationship, and then we give that one up and we go into another one. And that pattern of particularly relationships are the one that teach us a lot. But what we'll do is we'll keep rerunning the same thing, of course, until we shift it. But we might have shifted a lot of it also, and we come out of the last one and we know that the next one's going to be different because we've done all this work on ourselves, and this is going to be really empowering. And then next minute we meet somebody, and within a few weeks we started seeing the signs of what we'd just given up those prior relationships for. And so again, it's that, and often people will say, well, that's it, I'm just going to stay on my own now because, new's not happening. But what it's doing is it's testing you. And some people give up at that point and stay in that last relationship and still have the same old, oh no, it's never going to change. This is just what I'm always going to get. And the ones that say, no, I'm not accepting this, I do want this change, will get the result. Again, it changes the course and we start getting the results coming in that we're really wanting. So it's a matter of hanging in there, but not giving up because there are obstacles. Often it's look at the emotional stuff that's coming up from that.
Yeah.
Because somewhere in there it's testing you on whether you're going to get angry and throw wobblies and all the toys out of the cot, or, what is the process that you usually handle it in. And if it's getting shitty and throwing things around, well, then that's what you're probably going to do again or not. So again, there's a point in there and a choice of doing this differently and moving on from those disappointments and the sabotage, particularly, because we just automatically do that until we stop. But it is a matter of processing the emotional program that's creating that to continually happen. Yeah. But usually when you push through them and you get through it, there's this, pat yourself on the back thing, because you just know, my God, that took a bit of doing, but we made it, we got there. And yet there are signs too, of there's also signs that are sort of directing us out of situations or decisions we might have made. And they're also something we need to pay attention to. So sometimes there might be a few little niggly objectives that are coming up before we actually go into the whole thing. And those were the things we need to look at sometimes and pay attention to, because they can also be prompts and warning us that this isn't actually the best thing for you. It can also be definite warnings that, okay, something really big is coming into your life and you need to really ground yourself and prepare for this huge process, because it's usually entailing a process, and that this is going to be really life-changing, but it might not be pleasant.
Yeah.
So, you do get to read, and I know for myself, mine are usually, I get these, the promptings in my body, but with my girls, my children, I get these knowings. I've had them all the way through, that, oh my God, when she goes to shift there and go there, I'm seeing what's coming for her in that space. Sometimes I've wanted to say, please don't go, because this is going to be really hard. But I also know I haven't the right to interfere. So it's for everyone's soul growth and whatever they go through and however they deal with it. But that can be a little hard sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And it goes the other way, where some things can flow without any obstacles and can be complete, meant to be, and just like happen without you even trying, and then they lead to a place that isn't. It teaches you something, like you're meant to learn it and it's meant to happen, but it might not be a pleasant feeling or a pleasant experience.
Yes.
Because that's what happened with my current job. I literally just walked up, handed in my resume. It was the first place I ever went to, like ever asked for a job. And he was like, yeah, come in for a trial shift next week. I went in for the trial shift, and then I had the job, and it was like the same day that I moved. It was just so in flow. And then I started working there, and it was fun for the first month, and then it got pretty intense, and like I could see the darkness that's in this job environment, and it made me angry, and I wanted to quit, and like I wanted to basically harm myself, because if I quit and I didn't have a job, then that would have been more harming than staying, at least at that time. Because I was like trying to look for another job and no other jobs was full, and I wasn't going to go, just go work at another random place. Like the next place, I didn't want a repeat of, this workplace. I was a bit picky with where I was handing out my resumes, and every single place that I was like handing in my resumes, it was places that I really wanted to work, but just didn't have any positions available. So it just wasn't flowing, and I was just stuck there, and it was like, man, I must like be meant to be here, because like it just happened so easily, and now I can't get out. There's something for me to learn here. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a myth. In my experience, the spiritual community likes to say, or at least this is how I interpret it when I was, first coming into it, was like about how the things that are meant, that are good and positive and like to create change, and like the more positive side of things, they're meant to happen, they will flow. And then the things that aren't meant to happen, like the negative things and the things that will harm you, or like hurt you, maybe not harm you, but hurt you and bring up pain, those things won't be in flow, and it will be hard to get there. But it's so not right. Yeah.
They can flow very easily and very quickly into those spaces of hurting, for sure.
How do you
And
feel
look
about
like you're like, and really entice you into it, because they can look like the beautiful picture, and you go in and then all of a sudden it all switches. And sometimes that's ourselves tricking, sometimes it's just being able to get into it. And then, it's like if we'd known that we're going to go out onto the middle of the road and get hit by a truck and end up a paraplegic for the rest of our life, we wouldn't do that, would we? And yet that might be the biggest lesson, which probably would be one of the biggest lessons you might have in your life, that changes your whole vibrational space. It'll be the most amazing experience you've had. And we wouldn't if we knew it was going to be painful.
Yeah. What do you think about all this, Mum?
My experience with all of this that we're talking about is exactly that just because it's a bumpy road doesn't mean that you're not meant to go down that road.
Yeah.
And just because it's an inviting road that's saying, welcome, please come down this road, doesn't mean that it's for you.
Yeah.
And for me, learning how to decipher those communications in my body, but what my spirit is telling me, has been one of the most difficult, because I have such a strong will, and because of the way I started life, I was adopted, and I have very strong feelings around connection and abandonment and all of that sort of thing. I can sometimes get myself in situations with people where I feel like I'm connecting with them, but what I'm actually doing is giving my consent and my power away. And so that's been a very profound lesson for me, where learning to trust myself and my higher self, not even taking in the 3D into account, like that communication on the 3D level, just putting a hold on that, and then tapping into this higher, because that's where it feels like it comes from. It feels like it comes from above. That's been really hard for me because of this disconnect that I had as a baby from connection and from my mother and all of that. So learning how to navigate it and to recognize it, and how to listen, the feelings that I'm having around things, deciphering Is that coming from my hurt place? Is that coming from my wanting to control place, or is it coming from a free flow and a trusting and a, you know, because that free flow trusting feeling is so scary to me. It feels very, very expansive and open and scary because
Yeah.
That closed sort of in contained feeling was always, it's like that I think I was saying a couple of years ago that that dense feeling was because that's what I'm used to.
Yes.
I've trusted it more in my life than that expansive feeling and that
Yeah.
feeling of freedom and being, you know, sometimes Juliet, what you describe and the way you live your life is very triggering for me because of that, the way I was raised and because I've put so much trust in the container,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Yep. I
Yeah,
do.
so undoing all that conditioning and the programming and you know, the story of my birth and my life and all of that has been a challenge for me. So this subject matter is perfect because I'm learning so much about how to feel it and trust it and decipher it and all of that, because stepping into that trust of divinity is a huge leap of faith for me, massive leap of faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I I think that's how you create your highest potential reality, obviously. Um, so how I was talking about the temple in the middle of the rainforest.
Mm-hmm.
This man, his story is incredible. He was just like a hippie nomad, like just one of those like kind of like the rainbow hippies. Like he hitchhiked across Australia, across America. Like he he has a lot of stories, and um, you know, I remember when I first moved here, there's a lot of that energy around, like a lot of the people that I have in my life, because I am quite spiritual, so I attract spiritual people. Um, a lot of the people kind of are living that lifestyle, and you know, before I met this man who built this temple, I had a huge fear of becoming like that. I had a huge fear of being homeless and of like living this nomadic life, because I created like I had beliefs about it through, I think, growing up and through society in general. Like we do love to judge hippies, and especially the ones that are just like um, you know, going with the wind and just not really having a place to stay and living free, really.
Yeah.
Living a life that we're kind of designed to live. But yeah, I created this reputation and I had this huge fear around doing that and being that person. And then I met this man who built the temple, and he lived that. He is that still now.
Yeah.
And all he did was trust divinity, trust the universe. I think he took a lot of shrooms as well.
Yeah.
And he like got this message to build this temple, and he just literally had no idea, like he had no specific path laid out in front of him. He just followed what he was told to do by the universe. This is his story telling, you know, this is like what he's told me. Like, yeah, there was no plan. He would just listen to the universe and feel into it. And then he traveled all across America. He had all these incredible experiences, like at festivals and who knows where, like at random places around the world. And then he came back to Australia and he found this land, and he knew, okay, this is where this is where I'm meant to build it. And he bought the land. He found the money. I don't know if it was something he saved up for, I don't know, but he bought the land and he started building this temple from the ground up with his bare hands, because the universe told him to. That's what he says. The universe told me to do it. This is the universe's temple. This is not mine. I'm just with the hands who's doing the work. And that's trusting divinity. And then 20, 30 years later, there's this huge, like 7, 8 story, incredible temple. And he says, like, it's even laid out in the geometry of the Star of David. So it's like a triangle and then
Yeah.
a triangle the other way. And it's just stacked on top of each other. And it's the most beautiful place. And the universe also told him to, like, start digging out a cave underground. And so he did that, and he never questioned. He just did what he was channeled, what was told, like what the universe told him to.
Yeah.
And so he's digging out this cave, and he's like, okay, it's done now. And then he just has this hole underground, and he's like, I don't know what that's for, but let's just keep moving, let's just keep flowing, let's just keep trusting. And then these glowworms come and inhabit the cave, and now it's a glowworm cave. And you can, like, sit in there and sing music, and it looks like you're in space. Like, it really feels like you're floating around the universe. Like, that's how it feels. And it's the most incredible place in the world that I've ever been to. And it's all because this nomad hippie just trusted what
Yeah.
he was told to do. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
it created this place that I can't even put into words. And so imagine if everyone did that. Imagine how many of these places, imagine what the world would look like if we just did what he did, and we weren't afraid to,
Absolutely.
like, flow around and, like, ask for a ride on the side of the road, and hitchhike and hear people's stories, and go to places like the Rainbow Gathering and hear people's stories. And, like, imagine what we would create as a civilization. It would be, I think, like Atlantis. It would be incredible. And yeah, so it just showed me a lot. And it's going there to this place and coming back, it's showed me, right, I need to trust my path, my own.
Yeah.
And I need to let go of my idea of, like, and my assumptions about who I'm meant to be, what's meant to happen, what people are meant to be like. That it's that's not how life works. And if I want to create my highest reality, I literally have to just let go and see where it takes me. And that's what I did yesterday, and then it created all this stuff. So yeah, it just shows that, like, that's really trusting divinity. And you may get a glowworm cave at the end of it, who knows.
It is trusting it. And I mean, I haven't done anything as grand as that, but I've listened every time. That's why I don't own a home, because I've been always prompted to move to where I've been needed to go, bring that light in there, whatever it might be, we might consider our purpose to be. But there's so many buildings on this globe, on this planet, that have been built by people like that have had visions that they don't know where they come from. They just followed the prompt and ended up, pyramids are probably part of all of that as well. But it is an incredible thing. And I think once, and that's I think the biggest thing there is to that like you say, letting go of the structure that we're in. I keep calling it the dome. We're under this dome, and it's structured this way, and that's the way we're all meant to run our life. And something told me as a young child that's not the way I was going to ever do it.
Yeah.
I might fit into it in the way that I need it to fit for me, but other than that, I run a very free. I mean, I think I feel like I've created my life in a way that I free flow. That's what I call it. I just free flow. If I feel like want to go to the middle of the island, I go down to the middle of the island. I don't have anything that holds me in one place.
Yeah.
So I can do that. But I feel for those who I watch constantly in the 9-to-5s, who are so structured and programmed in that this is what we have to do every day to get the thing that we need at the end of the week, which is our pay packet. That's the only amount that we're going to have for the rest of our time. And we've got to make this work. And for me, that sort of structure just keeps it so stuck. It's not an open, expansive thing. It's a very rigid and narrow pathway. And I feel for those souls who have been trapped into that.
Yeah.
You know, because they aren't enjoying life. There isn't any joy. They might feel like, oh yes, this is, you know, I'm quite happy doing this, but actually, a lot of people are just um, accepting less than. I think,
Yeah.
you know, so many, and imagine, like you say, Juliet, if life was where people were all living in that free flow.
Yeah.
You know, there'd be so much more joy. And I think this year for me, I've decided is going to be even a more step up into the fun and the joy. You know, I think we've had, as we know, the last few years have been a bit rigid and a bit stuck. And I think, look, just coming, because I've only just come back from a little wee holiday. And, you know, the holiday makers, everyone was out having fun and just living joyfully in their free flow for their holiday, you know. And I thought, God, I bet they wish they could do that every day of their life. Just be where they need to be and where they want to be and have whatever fun they want to have, without harming others, you know. It's just, and that creates the world that we all want to live in when we're in that energy. You know, and being away in that energy, it was just so lovely to see everybody out having fun and enjoying life.
Mandy, you
Yeah.
know, that story you've just told reminds me of our Christmas Day. Juliet came home. We went to this little secluded beach. It was beautiful, in Vaucluse. And when we got there, they taped off the beach and said, no swimming, because there was something wrong with the sewer, or there was like sewage in the, they were saying there was sewage in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we got there and no one, when we got there, there was nobody in the water. And everyone was kind of like,
Dipping their toes in, like just.
yeah, and kind of like sitting, they'd all chosen spots around the beach that was behind the tape.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we got there and there was a moment of, oh shit, you know, literally.
Literally, I was going to say that.
There was this moment of like, oh, why did we come here? Like, this place is trying to stop us from having fun. And I kind of went, you know what? In my mind, I decided, no, we're staying and we're still going to have fun. We're not going to let this silly tape, you know, this kind of attitude of don't go there. We're not going to let that stop us. And so we went past the tape, and we got ourselves all comfortable, and Spence brought out the little barbecue, and we started making our food, and we bought the kids pool accessories, like a little rowboat and stuff that they could use for the water. And we started opening all them and blowing them up, and slowly but surely everybody started getting in the water. Like, all these kids were running around on the beach, and then the parents went in the water. And then by the time we'd had all the stuff blown up, Bryn got in his little boat to go out paddling, and Juliet had to go too. And then there were people in the water, and it was like, see, yeah, there were people swimming, Juliet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, what did you say?
I didn't.
Oh.
I might have made a noise. I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah. So your story is reminding me of that. You know, even though there was this warning, that people took the chance anyway, because it was Christmas Day. People had gone there to have fun, and they really wanted to, you know, have that family time and do that Australian, you know, the Aussie beach life.
Yeah.
And it was Spence and I were sitting there going, look, everybody's getting in the water. It's so cool, you know, even though it was saying don't go in there, it's dangerous, like there's sewage in there. There was no sewage. There was nothing. Everybody was fine.
Yeah.
It was actually really blue. Like, the water was really clear that day. I don't know. Yeah.
It's a beautiful planet, eh?
It is a beautiful planet. It's
Yeah.
very...
I'm just in awe of it, you know, when I go go anywhere. I mean, we live around, there's 100 beaches around us here. So
Yeah.
we've got a great choice of different beaches on the, harbour east sides and the ocean side. But it's just so gorgeous. It's just absolutely so picturesque. And where we've just come from, the Central Island, North Island, then, that's just a huge big crater lake. And oh my God, it's just amazing with the mountains, and it's so beautiful. Yeah, I love it. Love this planet.
Mm.
It's the one thing I don't want to go for, eventually, because I don't want to, not see this beautiful state.
Mm.
But yeah, and again, trusting, if we talk about trust in the divine, it's, I know there is, I, I'm in conflict, and not really conflict. I go with, yes, there is climate change, and then no, there isn't. It's a natural process of the planet, and it's evolution and blah, 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 and it's seasonal. It, happens every so often, and all of that. But I also know that there's a lot that's going on the planet that is raping it, and, not treating it all very nicely. And I get that. And again, for me, and my connection with, we call her here Papatūānuku. For me, with Papatūānuku, I trust that she also is the ruler of her own body. She's in control. If she doesn't want something happening on there, she's not going to allow that to happen. But she's giving us free will because she wants us to learn how to come into the divine with her. And when we're in that place, and we are living by that, we're not harming a thing. There's nothing that we harm. And therefore, this planet will also change itself, because human will change. Eventually, it might take a long time, but that for me, I trust that. And we saw it when we were all locked up, the first big lockup the world went into. The planet healed itself overnight, like amazingly. Things were happening that people thought would take for years, but they were happening overnight. And the smog left China, all sorts of things. It was like people were breathing fresh air, and it only took a couple of days for that to happen. Dolphins were swimming up the Venice
Yeah.
waterways, that hadn't been there for years. I mean, things like that. If we just get out of the way, everything happens miraculously and in its own perfect way, and divinely. It's all divinely timed. I used to be a bit impatient, quite impatient for a long time. I'd be running things, trying to run something instead of just letting it walk. Ideas, projects, all that. And get frustrated when things weren't working on time that I thought they should be on time with. And then I came to that place of coming more into my own alignment and realizing that how often, when I got out of the way, it all just happened perfectly. I didn't have to worry about anything. I honestly don't worry about anything now. I have no concern about anything in my life. It all just flows quite harmoniously. Honestly, it's beautiful. But yeah, we trip ourselves up all the time. But I mean, that took me a long time, a lot of years to work through all my sabotage stuff, because I was shocking at that.
Mm.
So
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's actually a beautiful way to put it. That like, Mother Nature, Pachamama, she won't allow anything that she doesn't want to happen, and that she's allowing this so we could be in a state of divinity with her. I love that. That's what you said, I'm pretty sure. And it was
yeah,
just, I resonate so strongly, because even though what we're doing is damaging, at least in some sense, it does hurt, I think. Well, I believe so.
yeah,
I also think that it's meant to happen, and at the end of the day, it's doing more good than bad. Like, it's teaching humans how to grow and how to like be one with nature. I think maybe not for everyone, but there's so many people waking up to how to be one with nature. Like almost every single person that I meet that is my age has the same vision as me, to live off the grid in a cottage, have their own vegetable garden and their own like fruit that they grow, and to have animals, and to, you know, like be off the grid. Like every single person that I talk to has that exact same vision for themselves. And so I think the reason why so many people, especially my generation, are coming to that conclusion is because they're seeing the polarity, they're seeing the disconnect, what the disconnect to nature leads to being like not having any mindfulness and just throwing things away onto the earth that can hurt, and that can hurt her, and like how limiting it feels to live in, you know, a concrete jungle, and how limiting it feels to not have access to just being able to go outside and like put your feet on the grass. Like in the city, that's actually so much harder than it should be. And yeah, it's incredible that there's that. Yeah, okay, it can be really dark and it can be really negative, like the stuff that is happening right now, but also it's creating so much good. It's creating people, like it's allowing people to see what being disconnected to Mother Nature feels like and looks like, and no one wants to do that. So they're going to go to the connection. And there is a backward twist on it, I think, of fear and of, oh, we're all going to die one day, so let's just, you know, that sort of thing.
Give up
And
now.
I do see that a lot, and that's pretty sad. But I think it will get to a stage where people realize, oh, we're not going to die, the world's not going to end. Like they can only say that for so long, you know, because they're saying like, you know, the whole brainwashing thing is like, oh, by 2030 this is going to happen and this is going to happen, blah 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 blah, and we're all going to go into, you know, it's the world's going to end and by 20 yeah. And so I think it's going to get to 2030 and it's going to be like, oh, we're still here, we're still completely fine. And yeah, so I think even though there is that fear, it's people are waking up to it, and also it's going to get to a point where people are going to realize, oh, we're still here, and it's been, you know, a good few decades of them saying it's going to end, the world's going to end, and it hasn't. So let's just keep going and let's just keep connecting to Mother Earth.
Yeah.
So I think there's good and there's, I don't like good and bad, but there's like healthy things that are coming out of it, for sure. Yeah.
And every time we work on something within ourselves, we're working on this as her body.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I feel like every day, every part of me is just a part of her.
Yeah.
Like I'm in that oneness with her, and so therefore, for me to treat this well, which I never did, I never used to, and I hated my body. Like actually, I really despised it. I didn't, and that was mostly from programming from other people about what my body looked like to them, maybe. But I took it on and believed it. And so for me, when I'm working on my body, if ever I am, I know that it's working on her body, and we're releasing those parts of trauma, or, you know, whatever it might be. We're also helping her to release that within her body.
Yeah.
And eventually, more and more, you know, there will become more of a balance and more healing, of course. But yeah, it's, I think for me, I still feel quite sad about people who haven't got it. You know, like my grandson, he's saying, I'm not ever having children. Like, you know, he just doesn't want to. And that's because the world's the way it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm yet to have the conversation with him about, you know, the mindset, because that for me is a very stuck mindset. Of we can't do anything, it's all out of my control, you know, all of that type of thinking, whereas actually it's totally the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can heal the world.
Absolutely.
Power. Yeah.
Yeah. By the man in the mirror.
Yes. Okay. It's been an hour.
Mhm.
Do you feel complete, Mandy?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
you too, Mum, yeah?
Mm.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and what a beautiful conversation. Yeah,
Was.
yeah, wow. I have to go to work now, so that's fun. But yeah, we'll see you all next week, and Mandy, I'm sure we'll have you on again if you'll let us.
Absolutely. Would love to. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Well, sending love to everyone, and yeah, see you guys soon.
Mm.
Bye.